Striking detail here is that federal prosecutors, as I mentioned, in the Southern District do bring up Donald Trump in these new filings tonight. They say Michael Cohen not only made illegal payments, we've heard about that, but they say in court he made them, quote, in coordination and at the direction of individual one, that is Donald Trump. I am thrilled that as part of our special coverage, Neil Katyal joins us, and he argues as a legal matter, prosecutors have concluded that Donald Trump is on the hook for that felony. Our viewers may recognize you. Of course, you served in many high-profile legal positions at the Justice Department, including as acting Solicitor General. So I know when you speak about what constitutes a felony, you don't do so lightly. Give us your analysis of that part of tonight's news, sir.
Sure. So to me, the big news tonight is not about Michael Cohen. It's not about Paul Manafort. It's about one person, Donald Trump. And this filing that you just started to highlight that was made today in the Michael Cohen case really does, for the first time, you have federal prosecutors essentially saying that Donald Trump committed a felony. And here's the way that works. First of all, this is not a document by Mueller. This is filed by Trump's own Justice Department, by the Southern District prosecutors in New York. And there's three pieces to the claim. The first piece is the one you just read, which is from page 11 of the filing, which says that Cohen made these campaign finance payments at the direction of Trump. And what we're talking about here are payments made to two women for their silence for having alleged affairs with Trump, and they were going to go public. And what happened was that Cohen paid those folks and did so at a time when you're only supposed to give $2,700 to a campaign, and that's for a very important reason. Congress has said we don't want rich people buying elections, and we want transparency in our election process. So at page 11, the Southern District prosecutors say, no, that was done at the direction of Trump. Then the next key, page 12. At page 12, the prosecutors say, quote, the agreement's principal purpose was to suppress this woman's story so as to prevent the story from influencing the election. So they're taking away the Trump defense, which was there in the Edwards case. Oh, I was doing it to protect my private life or something like that, these payments. They're saying, no, this was done with the purpose of influencing the election. That's what the campaign finance laws are all about. And then lastly, page 23, a long description by the prosecutors of just how serious this violation of the campaign finance laws are, how it strikes a blow to our democracy. There's some pretty soaring language in there. You put all three of those things together, the Southern District federal prosecutors are alleging that the president committed a felony. They're not indicting him. He would have, he has any number of defenses available to him, but that's the document they filed. That's a document I have not seen in my lifetime.
You say you haven't seen that in your lifetime. What you're speaking to is that language of direction you're saying legally makes Donald Trump, in the eyes of these prosecutors, culpable for the criminal campaign finance violation that Cohen has admitted to.
Correct.
And so is that the end of it? Or anyone watching is going to think, okay, counselor, that sounds like a big deal. You just said you've never seen anything like that in your life. Do they do more with that? This is separate from the Mueller probe. Do they do more with that, the idea that Trump directed this criminal campaign activity?
Right. So if this were any ordinary individual, prosecutors then would be entitled to bring a case. I mean, what they've said here, they're saying that we have, reasonable grounds to believe this. And so, presumably they have evidence besides Michael Cohen's own statement. They have some corroborating evidence to suggest that this all actually happened. And yes, they could, under those circumstances, indict an ordinary person. Now, the Justice Department, in two opinions, has said that you may not be able to indict and try a sitting president. Now, there's some, dispute about that, and maybe indictment, actually bringing the charges, is different. But so there's one question about what can Mueller do, what can the Southern District do in terms of can they indict the president. And then there's a whole separate realm of what happens in terms of impeachment. The standard is high crimes and misdemeanors in our Constitution. Right. And certainly...
Before we even get there, I just want to pause on that piece of your analysis because some of this gets into, as you say, uncharted territory. Are you basically telling us tonight, Neil, that if Donald Trump had lost the election, this is the kind of thing that as a citizen he would be indicted for along with Michael Cohen, and it's because he won the election, which this new filing argues was part of what Michael Cohen thought would help him win the election, was this crime, that there's a kind of a reward then, a bonus?
Right, exactly. I mean, if those three statements that I isolated from the prosecutor's memo taken together establish a federal felony, and we do have a principle in America that no person is above the law. And at this point, right now, the thing that's protecting the president from indictment appears to be not that he is some, law-abiding person. There's a lot here to suggest that there is a crime that has been committed, and the only get-out-of-jail-free card he seems to be holding right now is the one that says, well, I'm a president, you can't indict me, go home.
So you're saying that it's a huge deal. It jumped out to me as well in this filing, which is why I mentioned it earlier and why we're happy to have you here. In terms of journalistic rigor and fairness, I want to make sure we explore the other side of this because this is an explosive thing here on a Friday night. We're talking about a filing that talks directly to court about the president being an unindicted co-conspirator of not just a felony in concept, but a felony that Michael Cohen has literally confessed to, which makes it worse for the president. On the flip side, apart from the constitutional arguments about indicting, which I think folks have heard about, isn't there also a defense of the president that he may have been dealing with someone who was overzealous and did this the wrong way, that even if he directed the underlying activity, hey, deal with this problem, he didn't direct, quote unquote, the criminal intent, meaning hide it, mislead the FEC, that kind of stuff to a degree that it became a crime. Is there any defense for him there?
Sure. No, the president's going to be able to say, going to try to say something like, look, I didn't intend it for campaign finance violations. I intended it to protect my family and my personal life and this and that. And all I'm saying is that what the allegations are in the filing today at page 12, when they say the principal purpose of the agreement was for campaign finance violations, if that's true, it knocks out that defense. Now, again, it's all got to be proven up in a court, just like any indictment. It's got to be proven up in a court. But what we're looking at today is something that really very seriously implicates the president directly in federal felonies.
And I would ask you how the president might understand this, but I'll go ahead and share. And spoiler alert, it's not much, but he's posting tonight, totally clears the president. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's read the filing. So I think if you just read those 3 pages of the filing, you add them up, it's a pretty darn damning document. And I can assure you that no one I know would want to be cleared in this way.
I got to tell control room, someone's holding down the button, so I'm not hearing Neil. The audience is getting more of you than I am, Neil. Say something else or give some analysis while we fix my audio.
Okay, great. So, look, I think what happens. Okay, great. So I think what the president is, like many people, willfully reading things that he's seeing and saying, oh, this isn't a big deal. I'm totally cleared. But, the words are the words, and the words are really darn damning right now. And if I'm the president tonight, I am beside myself and frankly frightened for the, I know the president has a capacity for self-delusion, but this one's a hard one. Those words are black and white on the paper.
And then while I have you, the other big news is William Barr, appointed to be the new Attorney General, taking over from Whitaker. You are in a position to know him and a lot of the people around him and know how DOJ works. What is your view of that appointment?
Well, first of all, it's just a relief. We have right now a fake attorney general, someone who I don't believe is actually constitutionally empowered to do the job. So anyone that the president nominates and gets through Senate confirmation is a step up from what we have right now. So that's number one. Number two, Barr is an enormously distinguished, qualified person who served as a great attorney general, a while ago, 2 decades ago. The question to me is not what did he do a long time ago as attorney general, but what are his views now, and he's taken some views that I think some have found troubling about the uranium investigation, calling for the president's targets to be investigated and the like. We'll have to see and figure out whether or not he's really kind of changed. Donald Trump himself used to be a Democrat, so people change in 2 decades, and so I think it's his current record now that we've got to evaluate. And I think on the special counsel stuff, I can tell you that back in 1999 when we were drafting drafting the regulations, I think he saw eye to eye with the way we saw it, which was the Independent Counsel Act, that old statute after Watergate, was too strong a medicine and had dangerous constitutional ramifications, and that the special counsel regulations struck the right balance because they allowed for an independent prosecutor. And he went and actually testified on the Hill and celebrated that idea of an independent prosecutor sometimes when you have a politically sensitive investigation. So at least, again, if his old views are still his views today, that's a heartening step. It's certainly not like what Matthew Whitaker has said about the special counsel. So, my judgment is kind of reserved at this point because I want to see what he said today. But certainly his old views were good.
Well, that's very interesting coming from you, and particularly at a time where there is a rush, I think, with some reason to criticize a lot of what this president does no matter what. You're clearly looking into the depth of this individual, his record on these issues, and then, of course, he's going to go through a confirmation process, which, as we all know, you often learn new things. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.